Hey YouTube, it's Matt here. And today I want to talk about an issue that really hindered my collecting whenever I first started collecting comic books. I used to be that guy that thought that I had to have the nicest grade possible, or I didn't even need to buy it. And well, what that did was it hurt my collection. I passed on books that I easily could have got at the time. And now these prices of the values of the books that I passed up are now almost beyond my reach. We'll go back into around 2002, 2003 when I first started collecting comics. I didn't know much about collecting comics, so I was happy with getting reader grade copies. That's all I really wanted. I wanted to read story. And I've discussed this to you guys before in previous videos. But once I actually made the switch, the transition, if you will, to I really enjoyed comics. I really enjoyed the stories. I liked having a piece of history. I liked having something that I could hold and grab and read. I wanted high grades. That was my thing. And I don't know why I thought that if it wasn't a 9.8 or at the very least a 9.4, it just wasn't worth having. That's silly, okay? A lot of my books right now, I mean, I'm happy with lower grades on some books, and especially older books. I could deal with a sub 5 grade on an older book. Now, with very few exceptions, they have to present well. I don't want a book that looks like a dog. And like I said, I do have one book that is in my collection. It looks horrible, and it's a low 0.5 grade, but I have another reason I like that book. But to give you an example of what I'm talking about, I have a list here of prices, historical prices. Now, a Hulk 181, and I do own a copy of that book now, but I was looking at it the year that my wife and I got married. We got married in 2004, which that's another issue altogether. I can't believe it's been that long. It's been wonderful years. I just can't believe how many. I'm getting old. So anyhow, you go back. In 2004, a Hulk 181 and a 9.8 was a very expensive book. It was going for $22,000. That same book today is going for $49,000. It was the highest sale in 2020. Honestly, that book was, and I'm not made of money. I'm a working man. I have to budget for my comic purchases, and sometimes I gotta save up for it. I just don't have $22,000 lying around. But a 9.4 in 2004, there was one that sold for $1,300. And while that's a lot of money, and we're not talking about my money, but that's money that I realistically could have saved up. I could have put a little over $100 away for every month for a year. I could have picked that book up. That same book now went for $9,900 this year. But you know what? I didn't want to buy that exact same book, that 9.4, and I did look at that book. I remember looking at it. It was on eBay, or Feebay, if you will. I did look at it, and I thought about saving up money to maybe purchase that. But I wanted to hold off on it. I was like, maybe that 9.8 will come around. No, that didn't happen. That being said, again, and I keep on using the 2004, a 8.5 could have been had for $536. Now, that would have been my best deal because that same book was now $3,700. I held off trying to get a Maserati sports car, and I ended up not getting any car whatsoever. Sometimes you need to buy that clunker car so that you can get to work and actually make a paycheck, so that you can, bring some money home. But I wanted to drive a Maserati to work, and I ended up not getting a job whatsoever, if some of you guys understand what I'm saying. So what I should have done, a 5.0 in 2004 was sold, a Hulk 181 at a 5.0 was sold for $193. That same book now is going for $2,600 in 2020. That is a giant increase that, hey, it would have been a lot cheaper to get that book then. Other books that I've looked at, I do have a very low grade copy of Amazing Spider-Man 129. And it's not a graded copy, it's a raw copy. Actually, this is one of those stories in my comic collecting career. And again, I don't know if career is a word for this, but we're going to go with that. So anyhow, in my collecting hobby, this is one of those bad stories where I made a giant mistake. There was an eBay listing for an Amazing Spider-Man 129. And guys, this was early in the eBay game, way back 2012. You didn't have phones or cameras in your pocket that filmed in 4K at the time. And a lot of people's high-end digital cameras were still low grade. And I remember looking at the pictures on this eBay listing for Amazing Spider-Man 129. Honestly, they were kind of blurry. But the description, the pictures, it looked like a decent purchase. So I ended up purchasing it. The book came back in the mail. I opened it up, and honestly, it was a dog. It was not a good comic. It was not a comic book that was in good shape. In fact, just this past year, I cleaned and pressed that book. That honestly, the only time I ever touched it in the last 16 years since I bought it was just to rebag and board it so that it stayed in a fresh bag and board. I never opened it up, never did anything. I opened it up when I was cleaning it, and I saw some kid's signature on the inside of the book. It's probably, I'm assuming, the original owner. I didn't even realize this. My point is this. I bought this book, and I paid a price for it. I paid the price of a high-grade raw copy book. I got a horrible book, okay? And I looked at the the eBay listing on it. The pictures were fuzzy. The pictures were grainy. I don't know if the guy did a bait and switch on me. I can't prove that he did, but in my heart, I feel like it was a bait and switch. I don't think that the book that was in my hand was the same book that was in that picture of that listing. But anyhow, Amazing Spider-Man 129, back in 2004, this is a lot of money, but for 9.8 copy, one sold for $7,100. Now, I'm surprised this book has not risen as much as some other books. Definitely not as much as Hulk 181. That book went for $7,100 in 2004. In 2020, that same book could have been bought for $10,000. It has gone up, and that's a significant improvement, but not as much as you would think. A 9.4 copy in 2004 went for $722. It could be bought for $2,100 now, and there was a high one that sold for $3,800, but I kind of think that was a little on the high end. A 8.5 2004 could have paid $214. Somebody paid $214. That same book is now going for $1,900 in 2020. $214 is a amount that a person can save up to. And yeah, now it's worth close to $2,000. $2,000 is a lot of money for a comic book. It's a great investment. A 6.0 back in 2004 was going for less than $100. That same book is now going for more than $1,100. Guys, and this is going to keep going forward. And I'm going to keep giving you numbers here because I got another book. I got a Fantastic Four, number 48. I got the historical data on that same book. But what I'm saying is, if I would have, back in 2004, 16 years ago, if I would have picked up some books that were books that I would have been able to pick up back then, I would have some really nice books right now. But now I don't have any of these books whatsoever. And, well, I do have that very low-grade copy of ASM 129. But I wish I would have had these books. I wish I would have bought these books back then. And then my value of my collection would be a lot greater. Now, I'm talking a lot about money here, but I'm not talking about the value of my books. I'm talking about historical values. I don't collect comics for value. I'm not about that. I don't even sell hardly a lot of my books. But I cannot deny one of my favorite things in collecting comics is, yes, I love seeing the books. I love having that piece of history, but I love watching the value of my collection rise over time. And that's, to me, that's a part of the fun of it. Am I making good investments? And I made poor investment choices back in my early collecting. If I had any advice for a brand new collector, you buy what you like. Absolutely true. Maintain a budget. Have a budget, maintain that budget. But don't hold off on buying a book because it's just not in a high enough grade for you. Because a lot of people don't like the low grade, and that's completely understandable. But sometimes those those low grade books can turn into high value books going down the road. And who knows, this was 16 years ago. Are we going to see the same inflation in the comic book market as in the secondary comic book market as we saw in the past 16 years? I don't know that. But getting back to our values, a 5.0 ASM 129, oh my gosh. In 2002, one sold for $66. That same book in 2020 sold for $925. A giant jump in price. Now, Fantastic Four 48. Now, I do have a Hulk 181. I do have that low-grade raw copy of ASM 129. Maybe I might want to get a graded copy of 129, a decent grade. But right now, Fantastic Four 48. This is a book that I just passed on back in the day. This was I wanted the high grade. Now, I did not necessarily want a 9.8. Even then, that was out of my price. In 2002, that was a $5,000 book. Now, we're talking a 9.8 sold for $37,000 this year. But the book that I really, really was looking for back in 2004 was a Fantastic Four 48. First appearance of Silver Surfer. Okay, Galactus is on the cover. A lot of people don't like the cover, but I don't know. I kind of like it just because it's a very famous cover. 2004, $1,200 was what a Fantastic Four 48 was going for. That same book is going for $9,600 this year. A giant increase, in value. I passed up on it, and I should not have done it. We make mistakes, okay? Even an 8.5, 2004, $541 it sold for. That same book's going for just shy of $5,000. A 6.0, which is it's a very solid grade. $175. $175, I passed upon it. And right now that same book's going for $2,200. I remember looking at it, I'm like, $175, well, I felt like the grade was really hurting the value of the book. And it was, without a doubt. Because when we're talking about a 9.8 of that same book is going for just shy of $50,000, yeah, my return on investment would have been better if I would have bought the high-end grade, but I didn't have the means. Heck, I was still in college in 2004, so I didn't have the means to buy that super high-end book. And I held off for it. I should not have done it. Now, a 5.0 of that book, $2,430. That would have been a great investment. It's now going for over $1,500, okay? A $1,000 improvement. So the point of this video is if you're a new collector, keep a budget. Maintain that budget. Don't go outside of it. That's my advice for anybody. Not just comics, just in life. Keep within your budget, keep within your means. But don't pass up a book that you want in your collection because you think it's too low a value. It might be low value, and we get that right now. But going forward, are you just going to collect for the short term, or are you going to be in here for the long term? And if you're like me, and that's part of your hobby, is you like watching the values of your books go up, hey, don't be afraid. So there's an old saying, and we've heard it 1,000 times, is low grade is better than no grade. It's true. It really is. All right. I have a video up here showing off the YouTube channel Spinetix. I will put a link to their YouTube channel in the description. They put out great content. And guys, as always, this is Matt. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. If you want to keep hearing this channel that I'm putting out, please subscribe to it. And if you want to keep getting the notifications, hit that bell icon. But guys, I appreciate you watching. And everyone, you have a great night.